and circulation, which is 30.3. We are on textbook page number 860 from your textbook. Okay, so let's first revise the contents which we covered in the last class. Okay, we discussed about this Quran verse which is related to the heart, which says the day on which property will not avail nor sons except him who comes to Allah with a sound heart. And this is then verse related to the heart in the Quran, and there are many more verses, you can find them. The objectives for this topic are to explain the tissues and structure of the heart and to discuss how heart pumps blood through two main pathways. Okay, so we discuss about the anatomy of the heart. The key concept for this topic is the heart is a muscular pump that moves the blood through two pathways. Now we discussed in our last lesson what these two pathways are. Let's revise what we studied in our last class. The cardiac muscle tissue, it works continuously without tiring. From the time you are born till you die, it is the heart which works continuously without resting even for a single second. Okay, so the tissues and structures of the heart make it an efficient pump. The structures of the heart is your heart has four chambers, which are two atria and two ventricles. The smallest are the right atrium and the left atrium, and the largest are the right and the left ventricles. The septum is a thick wall of tissue that separates the ventricles from each other, and the heart also has valves, flaps of tissues that stop blood from flowing backwards. So you have a pulmonary valve and also the aortic valve which stops the backflow of the blood, and they open when the atria or ventricles contract and close when the atria or ventricles relax. So this is the basic structure of human heart. So you can see in this picture, this is how the heart looks like. You can see the four chambers of the heart here, and valves in each chamber that prevent the blood, the backflow of the blood. You can see this is the pulmonary valve and this is the aortic valve over here. You can see them like the gates or the openings. And muscles, they squeeze the chambers in a powerful pumping action. You can see these are the two ventricles, and you can see this is the septum, the thick wall separating the two ventricles, and you can see this is the tricuspid valve, okay, and this is the mitral valve. So this is how the basic structure of the heart looks like. So let's discuss about the structure of the heart further. After blood fills each chamber, the cardiac muscle contracts, pumping the blood out of the chamber. So the heart is small but very strong, and cardiac muscles, they can squeeze each chamber with a great deal of force. The heart can also pump faster as you become more active. It depends on your activity. Whenever you're doing any vigorous activity or exercise, your heart pumps faster. Otherwise, when you're sleeping or when you're resting position, it pumps slower. Okay, the heartbeat, it consists of basically two contractions which are known as the SA node. What is known as SA in the SA node, girls? Which is sino. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you invite Frida to the lesson?
Can I what? Can I what?
Invite.
Whom?
Farida.
Farida, sure. Is it the first one?
I think so.
Okay. But I'm not sure. Let's check. Do let me know once she's in. Okay. Great, we have 21 attendees. Let me download the attendance. Okay, so the SA, it stands for the sinoatricular node, okay, and the AV node, it stands for the name given for the AV is for atrioventricular node. Okay, sometimes it is written as VA, but it's actually AV, the atrioventricular node. Okay, so these two are basically known as the pacemakers of the. It stimulates the SA node, it stimulates the atria to contract, and the AV node, it stimulates the ventricles to contract. Okay, so yesterday we were discussing about these four steps which take place in the heart as to how the oxygenated blood is carried from the heart to the various parts of the body and how the deoxygenated blood is brought back to the heart. Okay, is it clear about the SA node and the AV node, or do you want me to repeat it once again, girls? Is it clear? Any questions you have?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about the blood flow in the heart. So once you know the basic structure and action of the heart, you can follow how oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood flow through this organ. Okay, so notice that blood always enters the heart through an atrium and it leaves the heart through a ventricle. And the contractions of the atria and then of the ventricles, they keep moving blood in this sequence. Okay, so what happens in step 1? Step 1 is oxygen poor blood from the body. It enters the right atrium. Okay, so it enters from here. Then the SA node, it signals the atria to contract, and blood from the atria, it flows into the right ventricle. Okay, so the SA node is the pacemaker which stimulates the right atrium. And once it stimulates the blood, it flows from the right atria to the right ventricle. That is, it comes down into the ventricle over here because of the stimulation which is produced by the pacemaker, which is SA node. So when the AV node, so once it reaches the ventricle here, the AV node, it signals the ventricles to contract. Okay, so the contraction is passed on from the atrium to the ventricles now. And blood is pumped from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery. Okay, so from the right ventricle, the blood, it is pumped into the pulmonary artery. Now this is the artery which goes to the lungs and is the only artery in the body that carries oxygen poor blood. Why are we saying it is the only artery in the body that carries oxygen poor blood? Because the arteries usually carry the oxygen rich blood to the rest of the body. That is why when you see the picture of an circulatory system, you can see that the arteries, they are shown in red, and the veins, they are shown in blue, signifying that arteries, they carry the oxygen rich blood and veins, they carry the oxygen poor blood. But with the exception of the pulmonary artery. Okay, all the other arteries, they carry the oxygen rich blood except for the pulmonary artery, which carries the oxygen poor blood to the lungs. Now what happens in the lungs? The blood enters the lungs where carbon dioxide and water vapor are released, that they are left in the lungs, and then oxygen is picked up by the blood. Okay, so the waste which is carried by the blood from the various parts of the body, which is carbon dioxide and also the water, they are released or they are diffused into the lungs, into the alveoli, which are the smallest part of the lungs, and the oxygen is picked up from the lungs and diffuses into the blood. Now this deoxygenated blood, as it has removed the water and the carbon dioxide from itself and picked up the oxygen, it has become now the oxygen rich blood. Okay, so what happens in step 3? This oxygen rich blood from the lungs, did someone say something?
Yeah, can you invite Leon and Sami?
Sure. Leon? Which Leon is it?
Leon, Sami.
Sami?
Yes.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So number 3. So now this oxygen-rich blood from the lungs, it returns to the heart through the pulmonary vein. Okay. And where does it enter? It enters the left atrium, which is this part now. This is the left atrium. Again, this pulmonary vein is the only vein which carries the oxygen-rich blood. Why? Because the main function of all the other veins in the body is carrying oxygen-poor blood, with the exception of this only vein, which is pulmonary vein. This pulmonary vein, it carries the oxygen-rich blood from the lungs to the heart again, and this oxygen-rich blood, where does it enter? It enters the left atrium. Okay, then as the aorta, they contract, as the atria, both of them, they contract, the blood is pumped into the left ventricle, which is the largest chamber in the heart. Now the oxygen rich blood from the left atrium, it enters the left ventricle, which you can see in red over here. This is the largest chamber of the heart. Now what happens in step 4? When the ventricles contract, blood is pumped from the left ventricle into the large artery, the aorta, which is circulated to the rest of the body. Okay, so from this left ventricle, the oxygen-rich blood, it leaves the heart and it enters the aorta, which is the large artery, which pumps the oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the organs of the body. Okay, so this is how the blood flow, it takes place in 4 steps. So after oxygen has been delivered to the cells, the oxygen-poor blood returns through the veins to the heart. So this process, it goes on and on, it is repeated again and again. Okay, so after oxygen has been delivered to the cells, again the veins, they carry the deoxygenated blood and they bring it back to the heart. Okay, and the sequence, it begins again. So this is what happens in our heart again and again. Is it clear about the blood flow in the heart, girls? Any doubts or questions you have related to this? You have to tell me if it is clear. It is very important topic.
It's clear.
It's clear? No questions?
No, miss.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. The left ventricle, it is the largest chamber of the heart. How is its size related to its function? I just told you that it is the largest organ or chamber of the heart, right? So how is its structure related to its function? Okay, as we said, it has a very large structure, or it is the largest, at least compared to the rest of the chambers. The large volume and more muscle tissue exerts enough force to propel or to force or circulate the blood throughout the body, because from the ventricle, the blood is pumped from the artery to the rest of the heart. Which artery is it? The aorta. Okay. If it is clear, we can move on to the next topic. Before that, let me give you some information about the defects of the heart as well. A defect in the heart can cause an irregular heart rhythm, or known as arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is the irregular heart rhythm. So in some cases, the atrial and ventricular contractions, they get badly out of sync. And any uncoordinated contraction of muscle fibers that prevents the smooth contraction of a muscle is called fibrillation. Okay, so as we spoke at the beginning of the lesson, your heartbeat should go lub-dub, and the doctors who are checking, they will come to know if there is any change in the rhythm of the heartbeat. This change is known as fibrillation. So with the contractions of the heart muscles out of phase, the heart can no longer pump blood, circulation stops, and brain death occurs. So by exposing the heart to a strong electric shock, the heart can in effect reboot and re-establish a normal rhythm. This process is called defibrillation. If this happens sometimes, a shock can be given. Okay, the heart can be exposed to strong electric shock, and this can bring back the rhythm to normal. So this process is known as defibrillation. Also, an artificial pacemaker, it can be permanently implanted into a heart if a person's SA node is damaged. Okay, so this small battery-operated device helps the heart maintain regular contractions, and an electrode is placed next to the heart wall, and small electrical charges travel through a wire to the heart. So most pacemakers, they are demand pacemakers. That is, they have a sensing device that delivers impulses only when the SA node is not properly transmitting on its own. Okay, so rate responses pacemakers are capable of increasing the heart rate during periods of exercise. So this is about the heart patients. You must have heard that a pacemaker has been installed, or that particular person has been undergone a heart surgery. So what usually happens is, whenever this pacemaker they get damaged, they try to install artificial pacemaker, which exactly does the same function. It is a small battery operated thing which is installed in your heart by doing an open heart surgery. Okay, in the next page, on page number 861, you can see a clear big picture of the heart with these 4 steps, showing the same steps again. You can clearly see the 2 big ventricles, and also you can see the 2 atria. It is very clear and good. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So now we know that it is again repeated on the slide here. The oxygen pour blood, it enters the right atrium, then the right ventricle. Then the right ventricle pumps blood into the lungs. Then oxygen-rich blood from the lungs enters the left atrium and then left ventricle. And left ventricle finally pumps blood to the rest of the body. Okay, so after this, let's talk about how the heart pumps blood through 2 main pathways. Before moving, let me ask you one more question. If the valves in the right ventricle, they do not close properly, where in the body might circulation be affected the most? If the pulmonary valve, it does not close properly, then the circulation to the lungs would be affected the most, because from the left ventricle, the impure blood is taken to the lungs to pick up oxygen, so that part will be affected. Okay, to give you some interesting information, the first heartbeat in a human embryo occurs about 4 to 5 weeks after conception. That is, during the 2nd month itself, the fetus, it gets its heartbeat during the 4th to 5th week. And then the diameter of an aorta is almost the same as that of the average garden hose. You know the garden hose which is used to water the plants? It is of the same diameter. The heart can perform enough work in an hour to lift 3,000 pounds, that is a small car, 1 foot off the ground. Okay, so that is how hard your heart functions. Only in an hour, imagine. Okay, and the leading cause of death in the United States is the heart disease itself. Okay, so you always need to maintain a very healthy lifestyle so that you don't get any heart conditions or, okay. So now let's move on to how the heart pumps blood through 2 main pathways. We are on page number 862 now. So circulating blood, it follows 2 separate pathways that meet at the heart, as you can see in this picture here. These pathways are called the pulmonary and systemic circulations. Okay, so this is the pulmonary circulation, and this one below it is the systemic circulation. Okay, so all of your blood travels through both of these pathways. Now, how does it take place in the pulmonary circulation and in the systemic circulation is what we are going to talk about now. Pulmonary circulation occurs only between the heart and the lungs. The main function of this circulation is to carry oxygen-poor blood to the lungs, where it picks up oxygen, expels carbon dioxide and water, and carries oxygen-rich blood back to the heart. Okay, so each lung, it is supplied by its own pulmonary artery and the vein. So this part of circulation which takes place between the heart and the lungs is known as pulmonary circulation. What happens in this? The oxygen poor blood is carried to the lungs, where the blood picks up oxygen and it expels the carbon dioxide and water. And it again, the oxygen-rich blood now it will be carried back to the heart. Now, all this comes under the first pathway, which is the pulmonary circulation. Now, the second pathway is known as a systemic circulation. This occurs between the heart and the rest of the body except for the lungs. Okay, now there is no relation between the heart and lungs. This is the second part in which the relation is between the heart and the rest of the body. The main function of this circulation is to carry oxygen-rich blood to all the cells and transport oxygen-poor blood back to the heart. What happens during this circulation is from the ventricle, through the aorta, the artery, the oxygen-rich blood is carried to all cells of the body. And again, the oxygen-poor blood by the various veins is collected from all the cells and is again brought back to the heart. So all of this, it comes under the second pathway, which is the systemic circulation. Now, systemic circulation begins when the blood leaves the left ventricle, the largest chamber of the heart, and the blood then circulates through the torso, which is a part of your body, arms, legs, head and then returns to the heart. That is why you can see the picture of the body here, and you can see the picture of the lungs here. Why? Because pulmonary pathway, it is the relation between which takes place between heart and lungs, and the systemic pathway, it takes place between the heart and the rest of the body. Okay, clear, girls? So you can see in this picture here, the oxygen pore bed, it enters the lungs, the excess carbon dioxide and water is expelled, and blood picks up oxygen, and oxygen-rich blood returns to the heart. This happens during the pulmonary circulation. This is the systemic circulation. It occurs between the heart and the rest of the body. Oxygen-rich blood goes to the organs, extremities, then oxygen pore bed, it returns to the heart, and the two pathways, they help maintain a stable body temperature. Okay, so this is about the two pathways, the systemic pathway and the pulmonary pathway. As the body's need for oxygen changes, the sensors in the walls of the major arteries in the pulmonary and the systemic pathways send information to the medulla in the brain stem. The medulla, it coordinates this information with signals from the respiratory system, and homeostasis is maintained by matching the heart rate and respiration rate with the oxygen needs of the body. That is why you can see your respiration rate and the heart rate increases as and when your activity also increases. Otherwise, it will be normal. Okay. In extreme conditions such as severe cold, the pulmonary and systemic circulation systems, they serve another vital function, which is making sure the body's brain, heart, and other major organ systems remain at a constant temperature. So when the body is exposed for any length of time to a cold environment, the blood vessels to the arms and legs, they begin to constrict, and the blood flow to the arms and legs is reduced in order to keep the torso and head warm. Okay, so once you reach a warmer environment, those blood vessels, they dilute and normal circulation resumes. Okay, girls, so with this, we are done with this topic, the heart and circulation. I hope it is clear. If you have any doubts, you may ask me. Any doubts, girls? Is it clear about the two pathways? Girls? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So today we discuss about the 4 steps of the blood flow, and we also discuss about the how does the heart pump blood through the 2 main pathways, which is the pulmonary and the systemic. Let me ask you a quick question. Why is it important to have 2 separate pathways for circulation? Why do we need to have a pulmonary and a systemic circulation? Why not only one?
To help maintain a stable body.
Yeah, that is true. To help the entire circulation is to maintain homeostasis and to maintain stable body temperature. But the answer to this question is having 2 separate pathways, it prevents the oxygen poor blood of the pulmonary system from mixing with the oxygen rich blood of the systemic system. Okay? So in order to prevent the mixing of the oxygen rich and the poor blood, the heart it takes 2 pathways, which is the pulmonary and the systemic pathway. Okay, girls, let's quickly solve the worksheets for this topic. This is worksheet 9 on heart and circulation. You have it uploaded on your Teams on week 5. Okay, so let's start solving it.
Miss, that's worksheet 8 or 9?
This is worksheet 9. Worksheet 9. Okay. So question number 1. Fill in the blanks in the pattern notes below the main chambers and valves of the heart. Use figure. Okay, so you can see the heart structures here. This is the right atrium. This is the left. Okay. So question number 1. Now, what is this? Is it the right atrium or the left atrium? Which atrium is this? Is obviously the right side. So which atrium is it? Girls?
Miss, right?
Right, yes, it is right. Right is right. Okay, now question number 2. Which ventricle is it? We are coming down from right atrium to the right ventricle. Okay, so obviously this is the right ventricle. Okay, it is so simple. Go on, what is this? Number 3. Which chamber is it?
Left atrium.
Very good. It is left atrium. And number 4, what is the valve? What is the valve here? Below the left atrium. You want to look at the picture in your textbook and tell me? Girls? Okay, it is the mitral valve. Okay, so this valve which you can see below the left atrium, it is the mitral valve. Now which ventricle is it? Number 5? It is the left ventricle, right? Left ventricle, and which valve is present here? Aortic valve. Okay, aortic valve is the answer to this question. Number 6. Okay, so these are the answers for question number 1 to 6. Clear, girls? Did you all copy down?
Yes, miss.
Okay, let's move on to question 7. Yeah?
No, miss, wait.
Okay, sure. Number 7, there are 2 main reasons why the heart is such an efficient self-regulating pump. First, cardiac dash never gets tired. Cardiac what?
The muscle.
Yes, very good. The cardiac muscle, it never gets tired. And second is the heart dash prevent blood from flowing backwards. What prevent blood? What to prevent the blood from flowing back? The heart valves. Okay, the valves, they are openings which prevent the blood from flowing backward. So these are the answers for question number 7. Let's answer question number 8. In the heartbeat cycle, the SA node stimulates.
Go up for a minute, please.
Yeah, sure. In the heartbeat cycle, the SA node stimulates the atria to contract. Then the AV node, it causes the dash to contract. What does AV node cause to contract?
Ventricles.
Ventricles, excellent. Down and answer this question here. Did you copy it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're most welcome. So the answer to this number 8 is ventricles. Okay. Let me move on to the next question. Number the following phrases to show the sequence of events that happen during a heartbeat cycle. Okay, so we have about 4 or 5 steps here. Okay, so you need to number them as to which one is 1, which is 2, which is 3, which is 4 and 5. You can read out, blood from the right ventricle is pumped into the pulmonary artery. Okay, blood from the left atrium is pumped into the left ventricle and from there to the rest of the body. So from these 5, which is step number 1? What happens in step number 1? Girls?
Yes.
What happens in step number 1? Which one can be step number 1? The oxygen
Bloods into the lungs.
and please repeat.
The last one.
The last one, oxygen-rich blood moves from the lungs into the left atrium.
The fourth one.
The fourth one, excellent. Oxygen-poor blood, it flows into the right atrium, then is pumped into the left ventricle. So this is step number 1. Now, which is step number 2? What happens after that? Quickly.
Miss, the first one is 2.
Very good. Then this is step number 2. The blood from the right ventricle is pumped into the pulmonary artery. Excellent. Then which one is step number 3? Then does the blood from the left atrium is pumped into the left ventricle and from there to the rest of the body, or oxygen-poor blood moves into the lungs? This one?
Oxygen-rich blood moves from the lungs into the left atrium.
Are you sure?
Miss, the third one.
Yeah, the third one is step number 3, wherein the oxygen-poor blood, it moves into the lungs. Okay, then this step number 4 takes place, which is oxygen-rich blood moves from the lungs into the left atrium. Okay, then finally, blood from the left atrium is pumped into the left ventricle and from there to the rest of the body. Okay, so the order for question number 9 is 2, 5, 3, 1, 4. Okay, girls? Did you all copy? Can I move to the next question?
Yes.
Okay. Fill in the blanks with the word or phrase that best completes the sentence. The main function of dash circulation is to carry oxygen-poor blood away from the heart into the lungs and bring oxygen-rich blood to the heart from the lungs. Which circulation is this? Is it pulmonary or systemic circulation?
Miss, pulmonary.
Very good. It is pulmonary circulation. Then number 11, the main function of this circulation is to carry oxygen-rich blood to all parts of the body except the heart and to carry oxygen-poor blood back to the heart. So which circulation is this? It is systemic circulation, right? So the answer for this is systemic. Now number 12, an atrium in a building is the first room or area that people enter before going into the rest of the building. Similarly, the atrium is the dash chamber that blood enters when it moves into the heart from the body. So which chamber is it? It is the first chamber wherein the blood enters the heart. So you can call it as the first chamber. Okay, 13, the SA node is called the heart's dash because it generates electrical signals that control the start of each heartbeat. What is it called? It is called the pacemaker, right? We read in our topic that it is known as the pacemaker, which stimulates the contractions in the two atria. Okay, you also have the answers below the worksheet. So I'm also saving the answers here. You can find this answer with the answer key, on your Teams. Okay, girls. So let's also quickly solve the MCQ worksheet for this topic. Okay, number 1, where does the first contraction of the heartbeat take place? Is it A, in the ventricles, B, in the atria, C, in the valves, or D, in the septum? pulmonary contraction or the first contraction take place? Girls?
Miss, which worksheet is this?
This worksheet is, sweetie, I didn't upload it so far on your Teams. I will upload it now. Please to remind me. For the chapter 1, I uploaded, I believe, yesterday. Did I upload the worksheets for chapter 19? Did I send you the MCQ worksheets to prepare for the quiz, girls? No?
No, Miss.
Okay, so please to remind me today evening I shall upload all the MCQ worksheets for chapter 19 and also for chapter 30. Okay? So what is the answer for question number 1? It is B, the atria. The first contraction of the heartbeat takes place in the atria. Number 2, the AV node, it signals the heart's ventricles to contract, pumping oxygen powered blood from the right ventricle into the A, aorta, B, pulmonary vein, C, pulmonary artery, or D, atria. What is the answer? It is C, pulmonary artery. Okay. Number 3, which parts of the circulatory system deliver oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body? Is it A, the left ventricle and pulmonary vein, B, the left atrium and the capillaries, C, the atria and the pulmonary artery, or D, the left ventricle aorta? Oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. From there is it circulated. From the left ventricle and the aorta, we discussed that it is the biggest chamber of the heart, right? Number 4, pulmonary circulation occurs between the heart and the pulmonary circulation. It occurs between the heart and the lungs. And the systemic circulation, it takes place between the heart and the rest of the body. Number 5, a pulmonary vein, it differs from most veins in that it carries A, twice as much blood, B, its own blood supply, C, oxygen-rich blood, or D, more carbon dioxide. C, oxygen-rich blood is the answer. Okay, girls, so these are the answers for the MCQ worksheet as well. We are done with this topic. In our next class, we shall start the next chapter 1.4, inshallah. Okay.